This is the woman your friend was talking to. First, I feel I should say that I know so much about Christianity because I was one. I was in fact a very devout one. It continues to interest me today, though, for the same reasons minority races know so much about racism power. The same reason gays and homophobic cultures know so much about straights. The same reason women and sexist cultures know so much about men. This alone, I would hope, can speak volumes to you. I know a lot about it because it is important for the oppressed and their oppressors. It is not a thing the oppressed do consciously, but automatically. Do you know that your religion has had a vast history of oppressing people, and it continues to do so? There's a link in this video description you should watch later. This will tell you a little bit about this as it exists today in even modern countries. I would first like to point out that an atheist is a person who does not believe in deities. There is nothing else implied about this statement. It implies nothing about sciences, only that, for the same reason you don't believe in Zeus, Thor, or Athena, we don't believe in your God either. On to more about me, though. It wasn't until I read the Bible from cover to cover that I actually became an atheist. I recommend you do the same. Yes, I know very much about religion in general, and again, especially Christianity. Now, my initial reaction to this video was the same thing I feel when I speak to many Christians who do not realize just how much ignorance their religion teaches. From Adam and Eve to Abraham, the lessons are remain ignorant. To listen to authority whether or not it gives you a good reason to listen to it. And to not think of gaining for oneself, but instead to follow like sheep. Ask yourself who these ideas benefit, and ask yourself who you think wrote these stories in the first place. Now, ask yourself what the Bible has been used to do time and time again throughout history. It has been used not to only justify heinous acts, but to control mass amounts of people. And what better way to control people than through ignorance? It is an irony that the tree of knowledge was named as such, as it seems the story almost blatantly tells us to be ignorant. American slaves, for example, weren't allowed to learn of other opinions, to mingle, as you put it, with educated people, let alone find education for themselves. They were taught, as Adam and Eve were taught, to simply follow. This was to keep them slaves, and willing slaves at that. If God is perfect, if following Him is truly the right thing to do, then would it not be better for you to make the decision to follow Him by His wisdom than ignorance? When this past great corruption has time and time again asked for and used faith to gain followers instead of letting people make that decision for themselves. Could it be because the corrupt leader is, like the idea of slavery, unjust, and that the corrupt leader is afraid people will figure this out on their own if they learn how corrupt they truly are? So, my reaction, like it is so many times, was sorrow that you would limit yourself to only mingle with people of your beliefs instead of going out and learning more about different people. It does not do to be ignorant. Ignorance has caused more shame than I care to imagine to the human race. But my next reaction, quite frankly, was laughter. You said murder was against the Ten Commandments, and because of that, murderers are not Christian. There are so many things wrong with this statement. I would first like to point out that the Ten Commandments are part of the Old Testament, and you later claimed in your video that Jesus' death made it so one no longer needs to follow the Old Testament's laws, like that of not eating shellfish, or, of course, following the Ten Commandments. What is also wrong with this statement, though, is that you know you have lied, and you know that in the future you will lie as well. You can feel just as bad about it as a murderer feels about murdering, but it doesn't change the fact that you have and will continue to commit this sin time and time again. You've also done and will continue to do many other sins, knowing that they are sins. Your argument was that a person who sins despite knowing it's a sin is not a Christian, and yet you, just as any other human, continues to sin, despite knowing it's wrong. Now, do not further your lying by telling me you haven't or that you won't. All I'm saying is that, according to your belief, you are not a Christian. But after all that laughter was discussed, I asked myself, how can a person who follows a religion that teaches both humility and the limitless value of human life possibly believe that he can judge the value of that life? That it is not considered murder if he murders murderers. That he can see through the eyes of God and pretend like he is a sword. I almost couldn't watch the rest of the video after watching that. After hearing what you said, especially after you so rhetorically put Islam at the center of the 9/11 attacks, which the few radical extremists would like nothing more than to be acquainted with. Know this, people who follow Islam aren't very far removed from you, and quite frankly, don't consider the extremists who kill people in the name of religion to be Muslims the exact same way you don't consider murderers as Christians. You should think about that. In having this argument with you, is the equivalent of you having the argument with a Muslim, and a Muslim saying that Muslims don't fly planes into buildings in order to kill people. Still, Jesus taught to turn the other cheek. He taught pacifism. He did not teach war. He did not teach to judge life. He did not teach to take life. A fine example of a real Christian who made great strides without any form of violence, despite that violence being directed not only to him but to his loved ones as well, was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. You do not have the ability to see into the eyes of God. Instead, it is your job to do what you know He taught you to do. And that is to be a pacifist, to not fight, and especially to not kill under any circumstances. Now, to my main point. Under your argument, under your definition of a Christian, which I dare say you might as well put a trademark symbol beside, it stands to say that you, murderers, lovers, gays, straights, pacifists, monsters, freedom fighters, and anyone who believes and does their best to follow Jesus' teachings but find themselves, time and time again, as it is only human, to be imperfect, are all Christian, or that you yourself are not a Christian. I'm surprised you don't find it in the least bit odd that there are Catholics who don't consider anyone else Christians, or that there are Jehovah's Witnesses that don't consider anyone else Christians, or that the same goes for Mormons, AICs, Orthodox Christians, Angelicans, Evangelicals, and Baptists. There are so many people trying to put Christianity into a box, to trademark it, and they all have their own definition of it. The truth of the matter, though, is that your entire argument is a logical fallacy. Their argument is a logical fallacy. It's called the no true Scotsman fallacy. I would recommend that you look it up. Good luck in life, and I hope that you learned a thing or two not only from atheists like me, but about other religions as well.